Hashem, the atzlocha that you have in this town, I have some success in it.
For sure.
So now, for that reason, I've asked you to join and give us an overview on Giyur, because I'm going to speak about Giyur in a different way. Giyur on boys that are born, boys and girls are born through IVF, and let me explain the IVF, what it's all about. So I right away would like you to start, and you have the time, and people will ask you questions after your 15 minutes of speech. Go ahead.
So Rabbi say, first of all, I am not able to speak about IVF at all, and you need really, really big shoulders for that. And I think Tzvika has already discussed with bigger people than I regarding this matter. Though I must confess that today I received a call from a Rav back east from the organization PUA, who asked me about a Giyur of a woman who was willing to be a surrogate and whether or not she was really Jewish. So obviously it's a major issue, and a major issue to discuss, of which I'm not capable. Giyur b'chlal, Giyur in general. So, first of all, I must say, in my own shul, where I was for many years, and many of the things that I do, I always operated with the concept of Kos Dehetera Odif. And wherever I was capable of poskening a shaila that would be able to accommodate and help situations through, I would make every effort to do so, obviously with consultation with the Rosh Yeshivas and Rabbonim and people that I consult with. And I want to talk about today two kulas, and then I will end with one chumrah. People shouldn't think I'm a ganze kal. I mean, I'll have at least one chumrah. The two kulas is as I. One is if there is a couple that is married or engaged or even living together, or boyfriend, girlfriend, but very much connected with each other, that in fact one is Jewish and one is not Jewish, I will not discourage them. We do not use the employ of discourage because of my Rebbe's psak, which was confirmed later on in years by Rav Reuben Feinstein. Zol Gesund sein, my Rebbe of Noach Zechron Levrocha, said that if in fact the Jew is that committed to the non-Jew to the extent where they made this complete relationship, then they're not coming to you anymore for a opportunity to validate their relationship. They're coming to you mamish l'shem shemayim for Giyur. And therefore, while you can't encourage them, you should not discourage them. A story to illustrate the point: a fellow came to me. A couple came to me, a couple of children, and we'll call them Goodman. And he was becoming more religious than she, and in fact she couldn't handle it at all. She came from a home that ate non-kosher on Yom Kippur. And they came to me for shalom bayis. How can we rectify our problems? He's getting to be too religious. And it came out that the one who was becoming more religious, his father was Jewish and his mother was not. So in reality, I have a religious guy and a non-religious Jew. And in this case, I mean, theoretically, the goal is to save the Jew by breaking them up. And my Rebbe told me not to do it, and Baruch Hashem, we had the results from it. Basically, what it turned out was that there was this every hope and belief that if he continued to become frum, and they worked things out slowly but surely, that he would make her frum. And that's exactly kachaya. That's what it was. In other words, at this point in time, Rav Noach said, the point is, save the Jew. So obviously, if you're sitting in front of, you're getting a whole class of group of people. Rav Noach Weinberg, right. Yeah, this week's Parshas Noach, and Noach HaTzadik is not known for reaching out. That's contradistinctive to Avram. It could be that Noach Zechron Levrocha came was second that. Anyway, so point was that this couple slowly and surely became more together through my counseling. You be makel here, and you try to adjust over here. And Baruch Hashem, we saved a Jewish girl who was eating, as I say, bacon on Yom Kippur. Today, she, Baruch Hashem, she is a mother of 2 beautiful children. They both go to Amek, a Hebrew Academy. They are. She goes to mikveh regularly, and they're a frum couple within the frum community. So the idea was not to break them up. And this was a maverick move on my part, because I felt strongly that she had the possibility, if he would just tone down a little bit, not get too exuberant, that we could really save this couple, and that's what we did. Point being, again, that the general rule is, if a couple comes to me, I do not discourage them. I can't encourage them, but I can provide every opportunity and facility for them to develop. That's one kula. Another kula was that young man came into my office, and in my office, anyone who's ever been to my office, so what my office was, I have to build a new office now, I had a wall of fame. You saw the wall of fame, no? Sure. Right, the wall of fame of great Gedolei Yisrael, maybe 25 different tzaddikim and Rosh Yeshivas and Rabbonim, and of different ilks. I'm a pretty across-the-board fellow in that regard. And Chassidish and Litvish, and some were a few Zionists and so forth. But there was a beautiful wall of fame. This young man walks into my office and he says to me, you know, Rabbi, I must tell you that you see all these wonderful, great rabbinical heroes with great long beards. I said, yes. He said, my grandfather looked just like that, and I'm a goy. I said, how am I a goy? My father went off to Derek and married my mother, and I became non-Jewish. Okay, what are you doing here? Well, I must tell you, I've always had an affinity and a connection for Judaism because my grandfather took me to shul when I was of age every single Shabbos. Now, why would a grandfather do that? I mean, his grandchild tragically never is a goy. Why would he bring the child to shul? Is the answer because the child is Mizera Avram. And if he's Mizera Avram, you don't push him away. You try to save that guy. And the truth is, Baruch Hashem, he developed. The point is that this is a point of realizing where, in general, our pushing away needs to be tempered in terms of how much you push, not too much. And you have to allow people for the development at their own pace. Fact of the matter is, in my classes, I do not disallow anyone to attend. And frankly, I might try to say how difficult Judaism is, this, that, and that, but at the end of the day, their discouragement comes from my classes itself. Basically, what I do in the class is I'll say things uninhibitedly, because I'm not teaching one-on-one. I never teach one-on-one. I teach only groups. By teaching a group, I can say whatever I want. In this group, I have, let's say, 50% Jewish, 50% non-Jewish, and I just say what it is, whatever I'm teaching. If I'll say that the neshama of a Jew is higher than the neshama of a goy, I got no problem saying that. If I'll tell them that the din of saving the life of a non-Jew on Shabbos is only mipnei darkei hashalom and not meikar adin, so I have no problem saying that either. And I'm not worried, because I got 50 people looking at me. And my classes, Baruch Hashem, if in fact someone is really offended, they'll leave. Now, I had a young woman who was with me for 8 months with a Jewish fellow, and she was taken to it magnificently. And, oh, thank you. Hot. Oh. No, that's good enough. Good? Yeah, good enough. So she comes and she's learning. I learn the basic thing we do is Sefer HaMitzvos HaKotzer by the Chavetz Chaim, 271 mitzvahs shenogim b'zman hazeh. In this idea, this particular young lady who was really magnificently growing and really showed great promise. She was 8 months into the deal. She looked ahead a few pages and saw the prohibition against homosexuality, Mishkav Zocha. She came to me and said, look, Rabbi, I'm not by any stretch of this Chas v'Shalom doing this stuff, but I believe that it's absolutely bigoted and racist for you to not to accept these people, understand them, and so forth. And she left. Now, again, we have a Gemara in Brachas. The Gemara in Brachas says, even if a guy is missing one mitzvah, in terms of Kabbalah mitzvahs, the Giyur is possible. what's open to interpretation, and what's all the Achronim and Poskim deal with is what's Kabbalah HaMitzvahs. So Ramosha wants to Mechadesh that Kabbalah HaMitzvahs is not necessarily that they're Muchanim Mezumim to Kayim them all, but they believe in the emes of them all. And that maybe I'm not ready for this and they're ready for that. Ramosha was also known to have matir a gerus in which the woman was makabel general sneas but did not cover the hair. In this regard, the Ramosha's reasoning was that the woman was makabel upon herself sneas as she understood a Bas Yisrael to be. In many modern communities, in most modern communities, 10% of the women cover their hair, 90% don't. And she saw... Right. Okay. It's a little bit better today. Right. But Ramosha understand this. This is okay. So this was Psak of 30 years ago. But Ramosha felt that there's not. It's not an ikuv on the gerus. In general, what he was defining in terms of Kabbalah HaMitzvahs is you have to makabel the mitzvah in terms of the basic principle of the mitzvah, and that it's emes, and not necessarily an absolute kiyum.
That woman may come back to you after a period of time. She might, after thinking about it, no?
Until I retire.
She'll come back to you after retire.
At the end of the day, we have this concept of, and we operate with this, and Rabbanim told me this also, the principle of Elef Nichnesu Lebeis HaMedrash V'echad Yotzei L'Hara. So we have this magnificent concept that this all these beautiful yeshivas are out there, right? And all of a sudden, one, I sat in the mirror, Baruch Hashem, in the early years, in the 60s, and one Rav Nosson Tzvi came out. I remember Nosson Tzvi sat on the left side until maybe 5 rows up. I sat in the back. So what about the 999? The 999 cheshivas. Why do they have cheshivas? Because if there wasn't that 999, that oilam, that beis medrash filled with bachrim, that echad would have no chance to grow. So the echad grows because of that chabura, of that grouping. That's why the yeshiva is so important. And as a result of that, even if nothing else happens, but you are able to magayer or makarev 1 or 2 or 3 to develop into really beautiful fruma yidden and so forth, then it's worth the whole program. Now I have a young lady who stayed with me for 2.5 years. Today she's married to Magid Shir in Los Angeles, a rebbe in one of the high schools. I mean, you can't get better than that in terms of the hatzlacha involved. Now, I also want to share with you the concept of the issue of Rus. Rus gets married to Nomi's son, and frankly, all the Mefarshim talk about it. I spoke to Rabbanim on it. No one really understands what's the concept. I mean, how did Nomi allow her son to marry a goy, a goita? And frankly, the issue is so more emphasized by the fact that at the end of the day, when the 2 sons are dead, and she tells Rus and Orpah, you can go back. So there was no gerus. Others want to say differently. They want to say, wait a second, there is the gerus, because the pasuk says that she did chesed. She was grateful. Naomi was grateful for the chesed that Rus and Orpah did to their dead husbands. And unfortunately, want to say that was the chesed of emes, in which they took care of it and was misabel, which indicated there was a relationship. There was a chitun, a chasana, which is not shaykh by a goy. Of course, the pasuk says lo seschatin bam. A lot of mefarshim talk about it. It really isn't a chasana mamish. It's not possible. It's not possible. There's no kicha of a kinyan kedushin. Elamah, what do they have? They have this concept where if a non-Jew lives with a Jew for a period of time, which indicates some degree of permanence, that's called lo seschatin, and that would be the issue of the Raisa. However, there's a machlekes rishonim based upon a Mishnah in which it's not sure, and it's a machlokes rishonim whether or not intermarriage is the issa the Raisa, issa the Rabbanan. So you'll say, I mean, it's an issa the Rabbanan. Maybe it's not that heavy a crime. So Naomi allowed the daughters to marry these girls to marry her sons. We have to understand that even if that may be true, and there's reason to believe that they had some shaykhs to Am Yisrael. And that shaykhus was what allowed Nami to consider the possibility that they would sooner or later misgayer, particularly because if they would stay live with their husbands and adopt all the mitzvahs and so forth. At the end, it didn't work out that way. So the shaila is, whatever shaykhs they had, there wasn't a real complete geirus, but it was enough of a geirus to allow them to marry. And if we want to say that at that time, you have to say that marriage with a non-Jew who attempts to try and become Jewish is therefore only an issa d'rabbanan, and as a result of that, you could matter the marriage if even though the person hasn't made a full kabbalah mitzvahs yet, as long as there's a possibility of that happening. That seems to be what Nomi's attitude was. Oh, let me finish up then. So what happened? So Nomi got married off the girls, and married off her sons. Then, so we want to say that was stage one, which doesn't exist bisman hazeh anymore. Why not? Because one of the ideas was that the fear of intermarriage was that the girl would take the Jewish boy away from the Yiddishkeit and make him do avodah zarah. Shlomo HaMelech married all these nachriyos. So people say it's not shocked that Shlomo HaMelech married nachriyos. It's impossible. Eli was Magaya them. How was he Magaya them? He dumped them in the ocean. Where was the Bezdin? So I want to tell you that the Bezdin, there was no such Indian or mice as a Bezdin, B'chlal, until Boaz came along. Boaz came along, was Machadesh, the idea that there has to be a Bezdin. There was the ruling.
Boaz was before Shlomo.
Yeah, but nevertheless. Why? Because...
So Shlomo would have had to use a Bezdin.
No, Boaz's Chiddush wasn't accepted. But Bisman
Why are we accepted?
We accepted Bisman.
Why?
Because we have learned that the concept of joining Am Yisrael for marriage per se doesn't work. So therefore, and Ramosha was the greatest tshuva of all to prove it. They came to Ramosha and asked him Shaila as follows: I have this fellow. He wants to marry a goy. He's not religious. If he marries the goy, he'll commit this lav deraisa, or even the rabbanon, we say. On the other hand, if he marries a Jewish girl, there's no doubt that this girl's not going to mikveh, and there's no doubt that it's going to be an issa deraisa chorus. What should he do? Ramosha Paskin, okay, kasha, no? Ramosha Paskin, then he said, marry the Jew. Why? Marry the Jew. Why? Because it's at least it's a tzuras hamishpocha hayisraelis was his lashon. You still have a hope and a chance. Mashain came. If he marries the goy, he's gone, and vice versa. Okay. We'll open up the questions.
Thank you. I suggest the shaylas. I'm going to ask you one shayla. Is all bezin around the world agree to your philosophy on Geirus? That's what I'm going to ask you. I would like you to answer at the end.
Okay, I think most people accept me in Los Angeles, certainly around America, and Baruch Hashem.
And that's what they do. I know that.
What was the Chumrah case you say that was?
The one Chumrah case.
The case that you did.
The one Chumrah case is if there. What's the story? What happens in terms of nullification of Geirus, bittul Geirus? The biggest shot on the table today. Can you mevatel Geirus? So most want to say that if, in fact, there is no immediate departure from Judaism, so then maybe later on down the line, the person messed up, we can't make them oisi.
Yisrael Mumerhu.
Oh, that's what I want to say. Others want to say that that could be that maybe at the very least the lack of religiosity is moiled a suffix. What's the suffix? Harama. Did she fool us or didn't she fool us? Did he fool us or didn't he fool us? Was he lying or not lying? Was his Kabbalah an emes Kabbalah, which now he's messed up, and now he got his head a little goofy with, or in fact did he really fake us out in the first place? Now I had a case that came to me of a Geirus in the Rabbanut, and I have to suggest that the Rabbanut is makel very much in Geirus. There are a lot of Geirus that I wouldn't accept from the Rabbanut. Now here a guy comes to me, he's a Chabadsker in Agura, and they became very close to Chabad and did tshuva and so on. So he and his wife, and he shows me a picture of his Tudad Gerut and a picture of himself. It looks like a Goy Gomer. He wasn't from. He said, look, I'll tell you the truth. I have to tell you right now. I became from. I'm from for 3 years. I got to tell you that, in fact, my wife was Megayer, Ayadeh Rabbanut. She wasn't from. She didn't want to be from, and I didn't want to be from. And they were Megayer, and we got married in Eretz Yisrael. Are they Jewish? Are they not Jewish? So we said the Shiloh to Rav Gabriel Zinner in Borough Park. Rav Gabriel Paskind, Bottle Mavutal. It is not. It has no. No
you have to know who to ask.
We sent the Shiloh to Rav Gabriel Paskind, the bottle gummer. So what do? We did a whole new Giyur on her, and they had to wait wait 90 days, and
you had to go into a toughest numbers again.
No, it was a she.
Okay.
So in that case, my chumrah is that if I hear of a person who I was Megayer personally, and that person went off the derech, 2 years, 5 years, 2 days, 5 months, doesn't matter to me. If that person doesn't hold by Shmiras HaMitzvahs to the extent where I have no kesher with them, then I can't mevatel it, but I won't verify it. And why won't I verify it? Because if I do, then persons will consider them for marriage, and I don't want that on my head. In other words, the idea that marriage now becomes totally in the consciousness of the Geiris is the pshat that if there is the slightest suffix in the Geiris, and therefore it won't be miskabel in terms of families who want to marry or not marry. And we had such a case where a girl came to me I was Megayer the girl, and she went with this boy who was Megayer but a different person, and the boy was not at all really keeping mitzvahs. I told her, as far as I'm concerned, you can't marry him. And such a case also happened with the RCC. I had a guy that we were makabel, and they went, and the RCC was not makabel it. I told the RCC they were right, because if the person goes off, and this was also a shiloh by regards to a
I'm sorry.
I think you need that.
What did I do wrong? I don't know. Maybe I don't need it. I'll see.
Maybe it's the
Okay,
next to it.
the subject that I want to speak about today is children that are born under IVF. In 20 years from now, they're going to get married. Usually, as you know, at least till today, when the IVF started, people were hiding it. People did not know that the wife can bear a child. People didn't know the husband doesn't have a sperm, or they cannot get the relationship doesn't work. So they did it quietly. They went to a doctor and did it quietly. They didn't announce anyone. Sometimes the wife, the woman, cannot have an egg. Her eggs don't function. So what does she do? She has to get an egg donor. Egg donor, Jewish people do not like to donate. They like to donate a lot of money, maybe, but to donate eggs, they don't like to. Therefore, they go to Goyim. Sometimes they go out of the country. They go to Slovakia, they go to the Philippines, they go to China, and they bring a Goy. So the lady, the egg is a Goyish egg. I'll talk one case. The surrogate is the mother herself. Who is the real mother? The husband is the guy who gave the sperm, let's say right now. So again, the egg is a Goyish egg. The surrogate, the lady who gives the birth, is the real mother, the Jewish mother. And the father is a Jewish father. Who is the real mother? Is the real mother the surrogate? Or the real mother is the egg donor? If the egg donor, the kid is Jewish.
No.
Why,
It's a Goyish kid.
Why you don't say botel berov because the sperm is Jew?
No, so we've been through the shear already. He's just preparing the shear. There's a machlokas whether or not the child.
Why don't say
Before we go to the Rosh, I want to bring the case where I am going to speak about. Let's give me just a minute, Nati. So, many years ago, when those kids were born, parents did not tell the story. They didn't tell anyone. Can you imagine, it's now 20 years from now, and the boy or the girl want to get married. They want to get married, they don't tell, the parents don't tell the mechitten who are the kids, how they were born. Okay. Now, if the kid is a goy, you don't tell. If the kid is a Jew, they don't need to tell. They don't know what it is. there was a big machlokes in the Rabbanut, in the Rabbonim, and on the world. In the beginning, they say IVF is not kosher. You are not allowed to. So much so, the Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, who is one of the big doilim, he still holds, before he passed away, that the kid is Sofek Mamsa. Ad kedei kach. Because he didn't know what IVF is all about. Moshe Sternbuch, who I am very close to, he was holding that you're not allowed to do that, and if somebody does it, is moitzi zera levatola. Not only that, he's not the kind puruvu, and you're not allowed to do it. It took me 5 years to convince him that it's not true. And today, in writing, not only my sefer and many stories, he exclaims that there are mekayem mitzvahs puruvu. However, he is against donor egg. He is for IVF if the husband has a problem or the wife has a problem. Somehow they use to a dish to mix the egg and the sperm.
Their own.
Only their own.
Donors.
That's what Rav Moshe Sternbuch. I have a letter from Rav Moshe Sternbuch written to me. I asked him, listen, Rav Moshe, nobody listens to you. People do it anyway, and we'll talk about the numbers in a second. People do IVF. They take egg donors. It took me 2 years till I got a letter from him. In the letter he writes, I'd rather use an egg donor from a goy than from a goy. From a goya. No, egg donor from a goya. That's what he said. I just will go through the series of shiurim, so we'll see the letter inside. But I just want to know. But let's talk about the case. A family, husband is not from, and a girl is not from. There's so many in Eretz Yisrael, not yet, as Chabadnik do say, not yet from. Not yet from, okay? They're not Shomer Shabbos, they go to Yom Kippur, maybe they go to shul, they don't go to shul, they eat kosher, they don't eat kosher. They needed an IVF. They didn't. She could not bear the child herself. She had to have an egg donor from somewhere. So she got from the Philippine egg donor. She didn't tell anybody. She decided, you know what? I heard there's a machlokes between Rabbonim. What is the machlokes? Rav Elioshiv at the beginning says, who is the mother? The DNA is the mother. The DNA is the mother, so therefore, this particular kid would be a goy. We're talking about the egg donor. Rav Eliyahu, who is the chief rabbi in the Sfardim, others say, no, the surrogate is the mother. Rav Sherman, who is the Av Bedin in Yerushalayim, Tel Aviv, and he said, he came to Rav Elioshiv, and he convinced Rav Elioshiv that it's a sofek. Rav Elioshiv changed his mind. Beginning he says, the egg donor is the mother. Then he said, no, not the egg donor is the mother, it's a sofek. And every kid needs geiros. Whether the donor is a goy or the surrogate is a goy. Sometimes the mother has the egg and she cannot give, she doesn't have a womb. If she doesn't have a womb, so you have to get a goya to be the mother. I was invited to be in such a bris on such a kid. Ad kedei kach. I'm just telling you the story. In Bet Cholim Poria in Tveria. So, what do? So this kid, some kids are being Megaya, some kids are not Megaya. The problem is, the Rabbanut in Israel and the RCA in America, and probably I don't know about the Bezin of Rabbi Blok, but even RCC is not accepting non-Shomer Shabbos for Geirus. You want to be Megaya, you have to become a Shomer Shabbos. A family who is not a Shomer Shabbos, there is no Geirus. And this is the case that thousands of children are born because 10,000 IVF kids through this system are born in Israel. I don't know how many abroad.
It's 10%. 10% of all deliveries today are IVF children.
Yeah, but in Israel,
everywhere, even in America, 10%.
Rav Asher said 1% in America, 10% in Israel.
It's 10% in America.
When you're Jewish.
No, I'm talking about 10% of all deliveries today are occurring through advanced reproductive technology.
Thank you very much.
Those people used to be in fertility. They can have children. Now 10%.
Thank you very much for coming. I appreciate it.
So it's a huge number.
But that doesn't mean that it's a surrogate necessarily. It could be the couple have sperm.
Sometimes either IVF from
If the couple, yes.
Yeah, so that's counting that.
Right. Okay. Unfortunately, the sperm strength, and the doctor will tell you why. I can't tell you why. The sperm strength is getting weaker and weaker and weaker, and therefore either you need to use the sperm from somebody else, from the bank, which is also a problem. You need Giyur, maybe, I'm not so sure, or the donor, the eggs also get weaker. I don't know why. You know the reason.
It's not just weak. It's all sorts of different problems. Depending on what the problem is, a technological solution is created. But infertility rates used to be 10%. It's still 10%, but now many of these infertile couples are able to have children with new reproductive technology. So it's a huge number.
So the Rabbanut is not willing to give Giyur to these kids. There are 10,000 kids in Israel every year. So can you imagine 10,000 kids within 20 years? There are 200,000 kids. Some are boys. There's not an issue. No, there is an issue. Some are girls. There's an issue. What do we do? And those who tell, great. Well, those who don't tell, it's even worse. And that's what I tried to solve the problem. I wrote a whole booklet. That's Kצבי again. And I wrote to 50 people, around more than 50 people, 60 Rabbonim around the world. I wrote letters to convince them to go to the Rabbanut, to convince the Rabbanut to change the law. So there was a meeting in the Rabbanut, and Rabbi David Lau and Rabbi Yosef doesn't want to talk. He's scared to. I hate to use the word scared. He doesn't get involved in it. He doesn't want to get involved in it. David Lau says, "I'm afraid I have too much pressure, and I don't know what to tell you. So I want to teach you what I was taught. Why I said yes. Why do people say no? Some of them, many of them say no, and hopefully you will understand, and we will fight and discuss, and we will agree or disagree, and we'll understand. We are going to face, unfortunately, in years to come, a huge problem in our Judaism, so to speak. Not from people that they don't even know they can. And the story was, I'll tell you a story how I started it. It started in New York. A couple, Israeli couple who lives in New York, came to a Chabad house, and they said on a Monday, they said to me, I had the baby last week Wednesday. I would like to have the baby, and I'd like to have the bris next Wednesday, this coming Wednesday. So fine, great. Tell me something about you. So she tells him, listen, I had the egg donor from somebody else from a Goya. Okay, I don't know what to do. The Chabadnik Rov was very honest. He said, I don't know the halacha. He picked up the name out. If you want, I'll give you the name who he called. I want to say that. He called somebody in, you know what, you need the Giyur. So immediately he called him David Cohen. We all know about David Cohen. You must have a Giyur. And have a Giyur. I said that you have to have a Giyur. So the rabbi called the... Was
the family religious?
No, the family is not religious.
So you didn't tell David Cohen that?
He told David Cohen. Oh. So David Cohen said, you have to have a Giyur. So they call Rabbi Willick. Rabbi Willick is the president of RCA. So I agree, you can find out the story if you want to call Rabbi Willick. Rabbi Willick says, you have to have a Giyur. Right. So they called the president, the guy who is in charge of the business. He said, I'm not the guy, I'm not from people. And that's what happened. You know what? They left, those couple, they left, went to a foreign place, and a Giyur, their own, not Giyur, they didn't have a Giyur. They just had a bris, and they had a bris, and this family is out of our fold. Is that the right thing to do? I'm not a Rav, I'm not a poisek, I just want to bring the problem in front of you, think about it. I think it's wrong. And from an halachic point of view, it's, in my opinion, it's also wrong. I want to teach you what I know, and I teach you also what the others say why I'm wrong. Why I am wrong. Let's see. Let's learn the halacha. At least you understand now the case. It's a sad situation that we don't realize that it's going to manifest every year to many more people, and if nobody is going to touch it, wow, we are going to be in a problem. Okay, you can ask me the question.
No, I have a question.
You want to say something? Say.
There's two. One thing is it's not a vadai, it's safek of the halacha. So I'm sure that's what you're.
Yeah.
Two is that this is even more than the zera abraham. But
You want to agree?
He called Zera. It's called Zera Israel.
Zera
Israel. Yeah, Ralam Salam. He gave a shir in our house.
Right.
If you remember, he spoke about Zera Israel, but they don't want to accept it.
No, I understand. But I'm saying, and two is we have from Reb Mamzu that if there's a safek and the guy shows up somewhere, he's Jewish and everything makes sense, and no.
Well, it's not Safek Giyur. Do you want to make a Giyur?
No, I've but I'm saying it's not.
The question is, okay, let me say, what is the Giyur? Okay, and this was, I had a fight with Reb Moshe Sternbuch on this issue. I'll tell you on Giyur. Usually there is a Giyur lechumra. We don't know what to do, so chumra we make a Giyur. For instance, I'll find out, there was a man that got married, but he wasn't sure was a kiddushin or not kiddushin, so we are not sure if he gave the money, paid, we're not sure the edim were good or not good edim. So we have a get lechumra. You have the term get lechumra. Lechumra means it's not that necessarily you need to have a get. It's get lechumra. The question is, if a girl got to get lechumra, can she remarry a Kohen? Because usually a girl who is divorced cannot marry a Kohen, though
the get really wasn't needed.
It was not needed. And lechumra oreach haket, they call it. Now let's talk about now the Giyur lechumra. The Giyur here is a question. We don't know who is the mother. Is the mother the surrogate or the mother is the donor, the egg donor? If the mother is the egg donor, in the case that the donor is a Goya, so definitely it's a Goya. However, Rav Eliyahu says the opposite. The mother is the Yoledet. The mother is the surrogate. So what is the real halacha? So is the Chumrah we say Giyur. Says Rav Sternbuch, it's a Giyur lechumra. So you have to find all the kulos in Giyur, not to find the chumras in Giyur. I consider the imegoi. That's what he said, and that's the problem. So he holds that the Giyur is a real Giyur. You make a bracha on such a Giyur. I say you don't make a bracha on such a Giyur. It's a suffix. Here is enough community. And you talk Bittul Barov, it's not, we got to sit on a Bittul Barov, it doesn't fit here. But you understand, the question is it a Giyur or not a Giyur? Do we need Megaya? Why do we need Megaya? Because we have a suffix, we don't know. Is it really? And I'll find out a way, later on tell you why, Emes, why you really don't need a Giyur.
If they take their own surrogate mom egg, and then they make it strength by... Sometimes they mix both. I don't know.
Well, he'll tell you. I don't know.
Sometimes they used to take other man's
the sperm, but it's not they say
because they know that the husband's
we had here a case of that. The doctor came and talked about it. I don't remember the matter.
No, but the chondria. You talk about the chondria. Something else. It's something else.
That's inside already one of the
Yeah, okay, we talked about that's something else. But we talk a lady that has her own egg, okay, the goyeta, and she and the mother did not give any of her eggs, so to say, any part of her egg. She gave the vitamins while the baby was born, while the baby is pregnant in the womb, but she didn't give anything. So the question is, who is the mother? Is she the mother? Some people say both of them are the mother. They are not two mothers.
So then you can say Bitul Barov.
Well,
if you say both of them are the mother, you can say Bitul Barov. Because you can take the Zera of the father and you can say Kedushas Yisrael, Nochri, both Kedushas Yisrael overcoming the Nochim.
The Kedusha is
But this is the whole thing.
It's a metaphysical.
This is the
metaphysical. It's not Metzias. Bot Berov is just to have some Metzias. You have this egg.
No, Bot Berov is dinim.
And it's a Dover Choshev, not the Dover Choshev is Afilu Be'elef Lo Bottle. No, but Afilu Be'elef Lo Bottle, the Dover Choshev, you can't have it without the egg. There's no bit.
Now you have the DNA.
If it's a Dover Choshev, Dover Choshev, Afilu Be'elef Lo Bottle. You can't do it like with a catalyst. Here you need the sperm in the egg.
Not necessarily.
So you could make an argument that there's no bit.
Comes out like the mother was forced, then you don't have a problem. The mother,
If the DNA so, you're right, but the problem is, due to the fact that Absterbu is
Piece of milk that drops into a 60
to Rabbi Yoshiv's sack, and everybody used to take to that.
Barrier.
There's sack, we don't know. You have to say something.
Is he all the bracha though? Is he all the bracha? Would you make a bracha?
It's only when it's a mix.
I say we don't need to make a problem.
It's in the
Depends on what? What?
He's not there is
no Taraivas.
man's there doesn't play a role.
No,
There's no Taraivas.
and this is exact, but at the end of the day, it doesn't agree with Rabbi Eliyahu.
Right,
You have three distinct
And
components.
therefore,
Right, well, the
but he
two
doesn't
ones-
agree that, but at the end
And
of
then
the
when they
day,
put it in, that's not a taruv.
he was
What gave them the Rabbi Yasser? This is not different. So that's why. You hold it to suffix and you still make the bracha.
Certainly Zev is Zekar.
How?
It's a
because you accept the psak of Rabbi Yosef today.
Yeah, but that's a
Rabbi
suffix.
Yosef was
But that's a suffix on its own.
So
he's not holding it because of the suffix. Now it became vadai, so to speak. That's what we.
Because it was a suffix. Because it's a suffix Giyur, it now became a.
I want to show you that yeah. It's not the suffix in the din, but it's not suffix in it's a suffix in Metzias. It's not suffix in din.
Have a good time.
The Metzias is a suffix.
So therefore, so you're making a bracha on the Giyur because.
But the bracha and the gerus is not important. You have to understand. You're talking about the bracha and the gerus. I'm talking about the Metzias of gerus. By the way, what is gerus? Gerus are three things, right? Tvila,
Kabbalah's
mitzvahs, and Mila. These are the three things that you need. And at the time of Beis HaMikdash, you need also Korban. And without the form, you don't have it. And Kabbalah's mitzvahs, we learned that Kabbalah's mitzvahs today is all the mitzvahs. However, the Achiezer told us, if, for instance, I want to remind you the shir that we spoke, I think 6 months ago, Achiezer is the only one who said that, and some agree with him. The Achiezer was Rabban Shel Bnei Agola in Vilna. He said, for instance, I agree 100% to all 613 mitzvahs. However, I love chazer, and I'm not going to stop eating chazer. Can we accept him as a gerus?
He said you still believe that you still believe that you have to do it. Just because you don't do it.
I cannot do it because I enjoy chazer so much that I want to eat it. Oh, you want to eat it?
But I'm going to do it anyway.
But I'm going to do it anyway. I get the third.
He agrees that it's wrong. He knows that he's being over the other.
So that's one thing that the people.
When you're Megayim, because he's going to do an Avera.
Why?
Once you're Megayim, you know he's going to eat the chazer.
You don't know he's going to eat the chazer. First, he's saying he's going to eat the chazer, but they didn't see he eat the chazer. If a moishit yad lenozir, then you have to give him the wine to drink. But if you give, but you didn't do anything wrong. It's the same thing. According to you, you are not allowed to marry a non-frum couple because they don't go to the mikveh, and he's going to be with her at night, and she's going to be over a chorus. According to you, you're not allowed to marry him. Is it? No?
I don't know.
No. Okay, the shaila was the shaila. I can give a shir on that, but it's not because the either is only on the spot. It's not every year of Ney.
Yeah.
Look, I asked you the shaila. Have you been to once to a wedding? The rov, a real rov gave, a good rov, a kosher rov, a Haredish rov gave to non-frum couples. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you one thing. Rabbi Cohen, Simcha Cohen, I want to always try to remind him, I was Macharusa for many years, Simcha Cohen heard from Reb David Cohen that initially he had many non-frum people, and he was afraid there would be some divorces there, and the divorce, they won't like to go to get through the Orthodox divorce, because Orthodox divorce creates another problem. Take, he told him, 2 Eidim who are possible.
It's like in Haifa. It was just the case in Haifa this past year. That's how we made it. That's how we possible.
Okay. Take 2 Eidim that are possible. The 2 possible Eidim, so therefore she can marry, she doesn't marry. No chash of mamzerus. Because what you save is mamzerus. And today the question is, it doesn't exist. It's another shia for itself.
If they live together, even without a connection.
That's what I told you. I just want you to know that it doesn't. They say today it doesn't apply with halacha. Because Adam Boel it's maybe once upon a time it was different. Today I'll show it to you. That's in the shir that I prepared on something else. Okay. So let's just see. Let's add the akdoma to the shir. What? Okay.
That's all right. The battery's dead. The battery's dead.
Okay. So let me show you. First of all, I want to. I give you 2 halachas here, very interesting on this issue. First of all, the first page number 1 is Rabbi Amar, chief rabbi at that time of Israel, now in Yerushalayim. So he writes, "Nachar ba'bitzit shel goya, due to the bitzit, the egg is the donor is a goya. Dina shel habat shehi nochri, v'tzricha giyur gamur." Look at the lashon that he says. Giyur gamur. Why? Because he holds
it's a goya
that. Why? Because he holds the egg. The mother. וגם העוברים הם גויים. וצריכים לברר אצל רב שמכיר את המשפחה אם אפשר לגייר ילדים קטנים הגדלים אצלם. במידה והתשובה חיובית אפשר לקחת פונדקאית נוכריה. He says, we have to check who in the family, because if the family is not a full family, we cannot be Megayer. Here it is. You're not allowed to be Megayer.
Kid, you could be Megayer the kid?
No, definitely not.
And then let them choose when they get old. Are they going to have to do a second Giyur anyway?
They have to choose. They have to be.
They're going to have to choose anyway, right? So what?
They have to be mocha. That we're going to learn that locha with Yichid Katan. That's what we're going to learn next week.
Because maybe you want to argue because they don't have a choice no matter anyway. Maybe they'll be from even from day one, no matter what.
I told you, if it's a Chabadnik kid, there's no problem because it's not yet. Chabadnik believes that every Jew, the Rebbe believed it. One of the reasons the Rebbe said, Rabbi Eli Tov, am I right what I'm saying?
The Rambam was right.
Tzvika, you're going to show us a lot of debate regarding whether it needs a Giyur or doesn't need a Giyur, regarding the reproductive technology aspect. But the real problem we have, as you heard from David Lau and the other one that doesn't want to do it, is the problem with Ger Kotten, because they're being Geir them al das bezdin. And they're using the principle of Zoich Adam V'loy Chayv. And since they're going to grow up not being from, there's no Zechus. That's so. No, but that's what. No so you have to show us. You have to show us the evidence.
Do you know the
of how we can convince Bezdin to be Megayer, even though they claim.
When you say there is no schus, it's not fair. If you make it,
no, but that's what they say. The poskim say.
Wait. Can I finish one thing?
That was my shaila.
Do you know the story that David HaMelech went to the mikveh and he was naked? And he says, "Oh, I'm knocking for mitzvahs. I'm open for when I'm."
Then he looked at his breast.
So he has a mitzvah.
So what?
That's a schus.
Yes. So, but I'm saying.
So hold on. So that kid, if you are megayer him and you make him a bris, he has a schus.
So what if it's a girl?
Zvika.
Okay.
You.
Okay, so the argument will be, it's not a chayv, it's a schus.
Everybody says, by the way, Rav Sternbuch at the time, kids, people from Cochin, from India,
who
came from Israel, he was saying, be Megaya then, because it's a schus even to them, because they say Shema Yisrael, they know something about Yiddishkeit, they believe in monotheism. What is a schus?
So that's a problem could be overcome.
The schus is not an issue. We'll learn it inside.
You said the shiur a couple of months ago, if I'm not mistaken. You talked about.
We heard that it's not a schus if they're not from.
I just told you.
No, so we'll find schus.
Well, sure. Yeah, one schus is good enough. Kol Israel.
But obviously, you heard from Rav Lau. They don't want to overcome it.
He's not overcoming because he's afraid of those who pressure him. It's not because it's not schusim. That's what you say, not schusim. I'll answer you in a second. I just want to say one answer. Kol Israel yesh lahem chelek lahem. What does it mean? What the Mishnah says, that's not it.
So it's also schus.
Why? Why call Yisrael Yisrael Chelek Haram?
Because they have a neshama, a Jewish neshama.
Oh, Jewish neshama. Every Jew makes some sort of a mitzvah. Either he is learning Torah, or he's learning, or he's tefillah, or he's doing chesed, or he's helping his wife, or he does chesed. Why? So Kol Yisrael Yisrael Chelek Haram. Each person makes one mitzvah. One mitzvah he makes good. He is a nice guy. He is giving tzedakah. He is going to Yom Kippur to shul. I don't know what. Kol Yisrael arevim ze lazeh. So each Jew makes one mitzvah. Therefore, we are connected. Therefore, Kol Yisrael yesh lehem chelek haram, because Kol Yisrael are connected to each other, and therefore, if I make one mitzvah, you only makes another mitzvah. You make another mitzvah. You make a third mitzvah.
So there's another for why it should be considered a schus.
Therefore, this is schus.
Even though they're not from.
Even though they're not from.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Go ahead.
You all the shiur about
Yisrael shemumar, afal pi shemumaru, Yisrael. That's the lotion.
about machshir shmiya, hearing aid, about all those installations in the body of a person. You can carry it, you cannot carry it. Bottom line, you said to us that it's bottled to the goof.
Right. Okay.
So why not? So why not the DNA? Her DNA should be bottled to the goof.
What is DNA? DNA. I can't. I don't know.
Her material. The goyish egg.
You're comparing goyish egg to plastic.
Yeah.
Not that you can't create a new human being without that.
A paste in the heart that keeps you alive, and you say it's bottled? You say it's bottled? Pacemaker makes you alive?
The goy's DNA still remains there after the baby is born. It never goes away.
So the pacemaker is still there, it's working.
And it's the key is the formation of the human being. It's no, without it, you can't. It's 100% of it, because you can't.
I want to go to page number 2 for 1 second.
No comment.
No, we won't learn too much inside. I'm sorry.
You're waiting
Continue next week too.
It was
Continue next week.
continue. Yeah, the same very case. A couple got married in a civil marriage. Not regular civil marriage, and they had a kid. What I want to learn again, they had to get a kid. They had the kids through, and the husband was a goy, and so it again IVF. So says Rav Vidal, and I'll show to you see Rav Ovadia's handwriting here. כן האם היהודייה ובעלה הגוי ודאי יגדלו אותו ללא שמירת תורה ומצוות, due to the fact, again, the kids will not be from, ויש בכך מכשול גדול, כמו שבשו"ת מנחת יצחק, ולכל מקרה לא לגייר אותו. So we're not going to מגייר him. That's what he says. The bottom I have הרב עובדיה יוסף. That's the only thing that I got from him. יש למולו, so he said, כן? Shvat Tafshinayim. If you go to check my passport, I was there in Israel. Yesh lemulo, he says, we have to make the bris, ולא נגיירו.
עד שתחזור, until the family.
עד שתחזור עמו בתשובה שלמה.
That they have to be from it. Otherwise, they won't be Giyur.
Why do you have a mitzvah Mila? What's a mitzvah Mila?
Get him set up. Get him ready. Get him ready.
Through Mila.
He's being optimistic.
Then what?
Hoping that his mother.
Then he's got a chutzim. He might as well go like this. He's got chutzim, and he might as well.
He has a little Lubavitch in it.
Then you do after the guys.
And then he did another Tofos Dam Bris, the poor guy.
You have to do the second time.
You see?
It's easier than doing a Mila.
Mila later.
It is. That's why he said to do it.
I understand. That's why.
Probably. Because on Tofos Dam Bris will be a lot easier for him to sit down.
No, because it's not בסוף היום כדאי אליהו, כדאי הרב כל פעם לסמוך עליהם
Okay. He has good challenge. Ask the challenge. Say it in English. Say it in English. I want to repeat on the
I'm
challenge.
asking, I'm guessing that the chief rabbin, for example, that doesn't want to deal with the question, are they just saying that, you know what, down the road, we'll eventually say that if we have to be smoch on Rav Eliyahu, that it's the mother, that it's the surrogate, then we'll go by the surrogate. If we have to be smoch on Rav Ovadia, that it's...
I'll tell you, the problem is, I want to, with the story...
And each time we'll say, yes, smoch.
First of all, the problem is that Ashkenazi is going to marry Sfardi. And what will happen then?
But Mordechai and Rav Ovadia, they're both Sfardim. They didn't leave stock for Ashkenazi Sfardim.
But I'll tell you a story that happened in this town. Rosh Kollel called me one day He knew that I'm involved in that case, and he says to me, "Speaker, do me a favor. What shall we use? I have a guy in our shul, in our toilet that happens with us. He is a Sephardi, and he wants to know, shall we have, his wife cannot have eggs, so she's going to be the surrogate. Shall we use Jewish egg?" I said, "I believe to use a Jewish egg is much better because this way you don't have to make Giyur." Okay. Very good. So the rabbi, and you guys know, you all know him, he says to the guy, "Fine, a Jewish egg." Great, a Jewish egg. So I said, "But I want to know who is the mother, who is the girl that you get." The rule is in this that you're not allowed to know who it is. You can speak to her on the telephone. You don't know the name, you don't know anything. So he decided, fine, he's going to interview the girl. The lady that is doing a Jewish egg. Very difficult to find a Jewish egg, especially in Los Angeles, you can imagine, not Jewish egg in Thailand. So she calls and said, "Yes, did you have a bat mitzvah?" "Sure, I had a bat mitzvah." "Can you send me your parents' ksuva?" Ksuva came. Was a conservative ksuva. The rabbi says no. The guy got upset. He said, "Listen, I'm a Sephardi.
I can go with the. I'm
going to go to Rabbi Eliyahu, the case, and the heck with you guys. I don't care, and I'm not going to tell my future if my kid will marry an Ashkenazi boy. I'm not going to tell. I'm not telling anybody."
Right.
You know what? This is what's happening.
But I'm saying
okay, you understand?
But it's very small-minded to think that Eliyahu, for example, was giving a psak only for Sephardim. Pashut, he was giving to everyone.
Yeah,
also Ashkenazi, also Sephardim.
Yeah, but just because he was a conservative rabbi,
but that's
who wants to claim that it was a mixed marriage?
That was the issue.
I know stories.
Okay, but if the mother was Jewish, right, then no problem.
To do a Giyur and stuff.
If a conservative
and he said,
rabbi
"Who do you follow?"
kept
So he wants to say that it was probably a mixed marriage. But even so, if the mother was Jewish,
because Menachem Burstein is following Rav Eliyahu, because now he changed his mind. Menachem Burstein, because he can't anymore. It used to be many years ago, not today. Today, everybody says, "Sofek, you need a Giyur," and non-from people really have a problem.
I'm gonna message.
Have a problem even in America. I wish he would be here. Rabbi Bלוק asked him if he's Megaya those babies. I'm interested. He doesn't know what IVF is. Maybe he does it on purpose. He tells me he doesn't know what IVF is. He doesn't know to do
he doesn't. I don't know. He will
No, I'm saying that Giyur.
He won't do get caught.
You can hear. He's pretty Muslim. He's pretty Muslim.
Depends. RCA will tell you he's not.
I don't know. And then what is RCA?
Okay, I just want to show you the issue is also once upon a time, it's not today, on adopted children. When you adopt a child and you don't know who he is Jewish, it's a problem. If you know who it is, if you don't know who the mother is, who the father is, because it's a Sufi is a Sefek Mamzer. It's a problem. If it's a goy,
it's better.
It's better, but still, unless the family that adopt is a family womb, it's okay, so we have a guy, but what happened? How many
same issue.
Same issue.
And then they still have to do a second Giyur anyway.
Right, so the proofs have to be, what are the svaras to say that it's a, how can you be Megaya Giyur when the family's not religious? Those are the, you have to hop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What are the solutions? Like you brought it. That's the key. That's the key to this.
I'll speak to you. This I'm going to speak next week.
You have to do it.